Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 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 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Actually.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's great to see such a full house. We'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Vaughn, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Conover,
Here.
Mr. Hikes,
Here.
Ms. Hubbard, here, Ms. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who regularly follow the Board of Education, you may notice that there is a change to our agenda format, which we have adopted going forward through the Governance Committee. And so our next item of business is just to briefly review selected Board of Education norms that were adopted on April 9th, 2019. First, decision making. We believe our first priority and greatest concern is the educational welfare of all students in St. Louis Public Schools. We acknowledge board members with differing opinions during discussion in both open and closed session to gain clarity and engage in meaningful dialogue. Professionalism. We demonstrate engagement by thoroughly reviewing the board packet and other documents, arriving on time to meetings and work sessions, remaining on topic during discussions, and respectfully interacting with each other, the superintendent, staff, and all stakeholders. We demonstrate respect for diversity of thoughts, backgrounds, experiences, and roles. Communication. We demonstrate professionalism and respect for other board members, the superintendent, and district staff by adhering to timelines and deadlines outlined in the workflow calendar. We recognize the importance of proactive communication and agree there will be no surprises. Confidentiality. We respect and maintain the confidentiality of closed session items and the board's discussion on the ideas. If it is necessary to provide a statement to the public following a meeting, the board president and superintendent will agree on a unified response prior to making the statement. Our next item of business is also new, actually a throwback to a previous time, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard. Yes. Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item of business is for approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the February 25, 2025 work session minutes?
So moved. Seconded.
Any discussion? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Hikes.
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard. Yes. Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next is for announcements, and we begin with the spirit of excellence. First of all, I would like to wish a very happy birthday to President Tony Cousins, who is spending some well-deserved time with her family, and I believe visiting colleges for her juniors. So happy birthday, President Cousins, and I'm honored to be here in your place. We would like to welcome Mr. Ben Conover. As we celebrate Women's History Month this month, I want to take a moment to recognize well, okay, I don't think that has to do with Mr. Conover, but congratulations, and I know you're celebrating Women's History Month with us. I would also then like to go on to celebrate Women's History Month this month and take a moment to recognize and honor the incredible women who serve on this board. Thank you to President Cousins, Secretary Jones, our longest-serving active board member, and I believe the longest-serving public servant in the city of St. Louis. And also to board members Emily Hubbard and Natalie Vowell. Both dedicated board members and committed SLPS parents. Well, Natalie soon to be an SLPS parent, and also public servants as well. Thank you to all the women across St. Louis Public Schools who work diligently every day to ensure our students receive an educational experience that transforms circumstances and prepare them for our ever-changing world. Dr. Borshade.
Good evening, Vice President Davis, members of the board, and to our audience. Thank you all so much for being here. In addition to March being Women's History Month, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our for your dedication and service to St. Louis Public School. Your commitment and insights are invaluable and play a crucial role in guiding our mission and enhancing our community. Thank you for your hard work and your impact that you have every day. Tonight, the spirit of excellence also shines brightly on the families of St. Louis. Thank you for your commitment to St. Louis Public Schools, shown clearly by your participation in priority registration for the 25-26 school year. More than 10,000 students have been registered during the priority period. More than 10,000 students have registered. Registration remains open, and we strongly encourage families to register their students as soon as possible. Next, I'd like to congratulate all students who participated in the SLPS Academic Bowl. Special thanks to our teachers and families whose guidance and preparation were crucial to our students' success, and to the administrators whose support ensured the event ran smoothly. Your commitment to excellence and academic achievement exemplifies the very best for our district. We are proud to recognize our top teams. The first place was McKinley. Our second place was Clyde C. Miller. Third place was Visual Performing Arts, CVPA. And fourth place was Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, CMSB. This Friday, we'll celebrate students who successfully completed 314 or Pi Day Reading Challenge with a special movie screening of Inside Out at Carr Lane Middle School. Immediately following at 11 a.m., I invite all families to join me for our first community envisioning meeting. This is your opportunity to engage directly as we discuss and shape the future of St. Louis Public Schools. Tonight, I'm also excited about our scholars. This room is full of our scholars. Our scholars have worked incredibly hard with the support of our teachers, parents, and administrators in reaching the goal of growing 2.5 years. Wow. This was the goal set at the beginning of the school year, and already halfway through the year, more than 1,600 students, have already met the goal. We are so proud of you, and now, all of this is possible because of the dedicated, passionate staff and educators who play a role in making sure that our students are successful and embody the portrait of a graduate. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Berry and Ms. Davis to come up and share names of our staff members who have been with SLPS for more than 231 years collectively.
Thank you. Yes, that's great. Thank you, Borshade, members of the board. I will go quickly as we know we are here to support our students and celebrate them. But we would like to recognize our dedicated staff members who chose SLPS and continue to choose SLPS. Over the past few weeks, we have delivered over 360 awards to employees who have reached 5-year milestones with the district in 2024 alone, whether it was 5 years or 25 years. Of those 360 plus awardees, we have 31 staff members who are recognized with 5-year milestones over 30 years, collectively representing 1,105 years. To our school, yes. Although we have already delivered their awards and certificates, we wanted to take a special moment tonight to recognize several of our dedicated staff members. We are hoping that these 6 are in the crowd, and if you are, could you please stand? Celebrating 30 years of service, Principal Karen Austin Lindsay of Gateway Elementary School. Celebrating 35 years, Principal Kathy Matthews of Warner Elementary School. There she is in the corner. Celebrating 35 years, Constance Berry, an English language arts learn teacher at Mann Elementary.
Can you please come to the front as your name is called? Please come to the front as your name is called so we can see.
She said, please come to the front. They didn't bring their awards tonight, but they were given beautiful awards. Also celebrating 35 years of service, Gwendolyn Key Hutchinson, a preschool teacher at Hodgins Elementary. Celebrating 45 years of service, Janice Moorhead, the music teacher at Wilkinson Elementary. And finally, with an amazing 51 years of service, Kathy Gregory, an English language arts teacher at Griscom School.
Is Kathy here?
While the rest of our awardees are celebrating and doing parent-teacher conferences, which I hope many of our families here are attending this week, we want to thank you for your dedication to our students and our community. We need you, we want you, and we love you.
And we love
Can
you.
we please give them a round of applause?
Can we take a picture? Take a photo. Take a photo. I'll stand up here.
No way. Can you tell us about that?
At this time, can we have all of our students who have met the 2.5 growth stand? Take your walk, take your walk. Take your walk, take your walk, yes. Take your walk, take your walk. Of you all. So proud. Congratulations. And keep coming, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. When you think about a portrait of a graduate, look at our students. Wow. Yes. Wow.
Congratulations.
I know. Congratulations. And this is only a few of them. All right, only a few.
We're going to need a bigger
have our
Congratulations.
parents in the audience? Can our parents stand? Parents stand.
Parents, you can stand up.
Yes. 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 Wow. So proud. Look at people on the outside. Look at them outside. Wow. Somebody gonna give a speech. Wow.
Great work, everyone.
This is great, great work. Can we have the staff stand? Oh my goodness, grandparents, aunts, uncles.
Just everybody.
I just want to say how proud, incredibly proud we are of each and every one of you. You exemplify what we call the portrait of a graduate. Each and every day you work hard, you set goals, and you rise to the occasion. Thank you so much. Your certificate will be delivered to each and every one of you, those of you who are here and those of you who wanted to be here and couldn't make it. And parents, we thank you so much for standing with St. Louis Public Schools. Thank you. Yay! All right. All right, all right, all right. This is what St. Louis SLPS, 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 SLPS. This is what St. Louis Public Schools can do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Dr. Dino and team.
I haven't seen you smile this big yet. I'm excited.
It would have been nice.
I wish we could have a student say something.
Yeah, that'd be great. We had them. Remember they came into the work session. They were telling us all about that college trip. That was great.
I know.
Thank y'all so much. Wow. Thank you all. You did great.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boris-Shade, and thank you, students, parents, and teachers. I'm speechless. I mean, just overwhelmed. It's excellent. I mean, excellent. We will now move on to presentations.
At this time, I'm excited to introduce to you Mr. Flynn. He will share some exciting news as it relates to our remaining bonds. Once he shares the news, The resolution will be read and need to be signed by our board president and secretary. Mr. Flynn?
We already approved this, right?
No.
All right, good evening, thank you. So as Dr. Borshati mentioned, my name is Sean Flynn with the law firm Gilmore and Bell. I've had the pleasure of serving as the district's bond counsel for more than 20 years. And I'm somewhat pitch hitting for Lorenzo Boyd of Stiefel today. He had a family emergency, so he is unable to be here today, but I will start with giving the results of the sale of the bonds. So Stiefel went in the market today to sell $25 million of bonds, which is the remaining portion authorized by the voters back in August 2022. And Stiefel had orders of more than $75 million of bonds, which means it was 3 times oversubscribed, so they were able to lower the interest rate to get the school district a better deal. And the true interest cost, which is essentially an average interest rate on the bond sold, is a 3.119%, which is an excellent interest rate. Also, during this bond process, the school district's underlying bond rating was affirmed at AA-, which is also an excellent bond rating. So there is a resolution that was included in the board packet which authorizes the $25 million of bonds. I know the resolution packet does have some blanks in it. I have copies of the resolution with all the blanks completed in it. It has the interest rates for the $25 million of bonds, so I can hand this out if you'd like.
Can I get a motion to approve the resolution approving the sale of $25 million in general obligation bonds?
Second.
Any
So moved. Now you
Thank
can second.
Okay.
you need us to repeat that, Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I moved it, and Secretary Jones seconded.
All right, moved by Mr. Conover, seconded by Secretary Jones. Is there any discussion?
Yes, just briefly, regards to Mr. Stiefel, and hope everything's okay with his family. So.
Mr. Boyd?
Mr. Boyd. We just hope everything's okay with the family situation.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Any further discussion? I would just like to once again thank the voters of the City of St. Louis for their confidence in the school district. I would like to thank the finance team for your excellent work to get us this amazing bond rating, showing the strength of your stewardship of the district finances, of the taxpayers' investment in the students of the City of St. Louis. And I'd also like to say that I hope that in addition to the Prop S projects, which are continuing to undergo, and people can see that in their schools and in their neighborhoods, we also saw today the result of that investment in our students, 2.5 years of growth in what so many people want to say are failing public schools in turmoil, which I think we disprove them every day. And this resolution and this bond is just another testament to that. So, any further discussion? Ms. Vaughn.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If I could just add one thing, Mr. Davis and Ms. Jones, I do have several documents I'll need you to sign after the meeting.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will have Dr. Dino. So while Dr. Dino is coming up, I want to just share, last year a declaration was made, goals were set, and educators rose to the occasion. Our students were asked to grow 2.5 years between August 2024 and May 2025. At the beginning of the year, our scholars took the STAR assessment in February. The mid-year STAR assessment was administered. Already, as you can see, so many of our scholars have already met the mark. That is remarkable. When we set goals and we work with students, families, and staff, our students learn and win. Our students learn and win. Dr. Ala Gonzalez will then join Dr. Dino and bring forward information on the restructuring that will take place with the Newcomer program so that we are in alignment with not only what's best for children, but also in alignment with the U.S. Department of Justice Dear Colleague letter. Dr. Dino.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice President Davis, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Bordicharlet. I'm Allison Dino, Chief of Schools, and I'm here tonight to share some exciting updates from our academic office. The SLPS strategic values run through everything we do in the academics department. We've recently concluded our 314 reading challenge, as Dr. Bordicharlet mentioned earlier. More than 2,500 students signed up to track their reading, and the goal was to read for 314 minutes over 10 days in honor of 314 Day. We're super excited that we had 3 schools who each read at least 15,000 minutes combined. One school read 24,000 minutes over the course of those 10 days. All of the students who participated from those schools, as well as all of the students who met the reading goal, will be invited to to go to Inside Out 2, a special screening at Carr Lane with Dr. Bordicharlet on Friday. Those 3 schools are Washington Montessori with 24,000 minutes, Herzog and Pomoja each with 15,000 minutes. And so that's a testament. And I share this now because we want all of our students to be joyful and engaged, and having a love of learning and love of reading is a key part of that. We're going to spend some time tonight sharing about our STAR data and our Newcomer program recommendations, all of which directly align with our 3rd grade reading, college career readiness, climate and culture, and even our math goals. We're so excited that so many of our students who met their 2.5 years growth were already here this evening, and they'll all be receiving their certificates this week. This is quite an accomplishment we want to honor. We also have several students and principals tonight who are going to share how they see themselves in the competencies of Portrait of a Graduate as it relates specifically to reading. We got to see everybody before. We're going to spotlight some schools and students specifically later on in the presentation. This is our agenda. Students take the STAR Early Literacy Assessment in grades K through 2 3 times per year. The beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and at the end of the year. The percentage of students you'll note throughout our bar graphs this evening, this is grade K on your left, K fall, kindergarten in the fall and kindergarten in the winter, and then in the middle you have 1st grade in the fall and 1st grade in the winter, and on the right you have the 2nd grade in the fall and 2nd grade in the winter time. While you're seeing some stability in our levels of students proficient, as you hear, our focus is on growth, because without significant growth, we will not see changes in proficiency levels. So our focus this year is on growth, because if we can get the 2.5 years worth of growth over a course of a couple of years, we're going to see significant changes in our levels of proficiency. This next slide, starting in 2nd grade, students take the STAR assessment, 2nd through 5th, and these are their projected MAP performance levels. So when they move from the early literacy to the STAR assessment, the STAR gives us a projected proficiency level on their MAP assessment. This is what it looks like for reading. Again, from left to right, you have 2nd grade, then 3rd grade, then 4th grade, then 5th grade, fall, followed by winter. This is the same data in math. This, when we get to middle school, you'll see the middle school reading projected proficiency and performance on MAP. 6th grade on the right, in the middle is 6th grade on the left, in the middle is 7th grade, and on the right is 8th grade. This is what our projected MAP performance levels look like in math. Same thing, 6, 7, and 8, fall and winter. Now we get to high school. This slide shows high school projected MAP performance in reading and in math. Though all of the data from fall to winter benchmark, you'll notice some small shifts in proficiency. I again want to bring your attention to the fact that our focus, heavy focus is on growth, because we can't get to proficiency without significant growth. And that's why we set such a large goal of 2.5 years worth of growth. And as you can see today, our students are rising to the challenge. This slide is about growth. It's not about proficiency. So as our district goal is for all students to make 2.5 years growth over the course of this school year. And we know that growth is necessary if we want to see changes in proficiency. This slide shows the percent of students who have either maxed out on the STAR reading or have met their 2.5 years growth at the mid-year level in green. Maxing out happens at different times, different points, depending on the grade level of the student, where the test doesn't let you take anymore because you've done as much as they project for you. So this, again, the green is all of the students who've either met their 2.5 years growth goal already or have maxed out the assessment. In reading, what you will see, and in yellow, those are all the students who made 1.3 years growth or more by mid-year, which means they're on track to meet the 2.5 years growth at the end of the school year. So you'll see we have significant percentages of students in all grades meeting this. I want to share just some numbers with you, like what does all of this mean? On the STAR Early Literacy, again, that's for grades kinder, first, and second. We had 13 students max out the test. We had 66 students meet their 2.5 years worth of growth, and 532 met the half-year benchmark, meaning we expect that they'll make that 2.5 years growth by the end of the year. In STAR Reading, so that's from grades 2 on, we had 846 students who maxed out. That's often at the high school level in particular. 1,192 students, so almost 1,200 students made 2.5 years worth of growth in reading, and another 1,144 are on track to meet their goal by the end of the school year. I want to point out a couple of other areas of growth as we talk about reading specifically. The 12 schools that are participating in our reading and writing initiative have showed aggregate growth that is higher than the schools that are not participating, meaning that those efforts are making a difference. Again, I want to emphasize we are super focused on growth because it's through growth that we will ultimately achieve proficiency. This slide shows the same information for math. Green are the students who maxed out or met the 2.5 years worth of growth in math, and yellow are the students who made 1.3 years worth of growth, so they're well on their way to making the goal by the end of the school year. In math, we have 1,400 students who've maxed out the assessment, 765 who already made their 2.5 years worth of growth, and 1,287 who met the halfway point at 1.3. So again, we're very much on track to meet the 2.5 years growth by the end of the year. All in all, that's more than 1,600 students who've already made their 2.5 years worth of growth. And we know that ultimately this will lead to proficiency. You might wonder at which schools. We have some slides here that show you the numbers of students, because students in every school are meeting these goals. Those schools, and the schools have how many students. This shows you a plot of how many students in each school have met the reading goal. And this shows you the numbers of students in each school that have met the math goal already. There's a lot of ways to slice growth, and it's really important that we hone in, not just on the big picture, but on each individual student. I think what we saw here tonight is that our kids and families are just as excited about the growth they're making as we are. We have some spotlights for you.
Dr. Dino,
Oh, yes.
would you mind if we paused here, just because you kind of have another topic, if we pause here for questions so we can ask questions about
Sure,
the
we have
data?
students coming to talk as
Let's
well.
do the students and then we'll do that. Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. So I want to invite Dr. White. She's going to share with us a spotlight on Gateway Middle, because they have really been working hard on their Power Up 2.5 initiative, and she has some students here this evening. After Dr. White is finished, we have elementary and high school ready to share. Dr. White.
Welcome, Dr. White and team of Rising National Blue Ribbon School.
That's correct. That's correct. Good evening. I am elated to stand here before you to celebrate all that our students and our staff, as well as our parents, have worked so hard on. as we look at the numbers, we were celebrating today because our numbers increased just with our progress monitoring. We have over 70 students now that have met our goal in both reading and math, so we're excited about that for the 2.5. And the week is not over, so our goal is to reach 400 for both. So as we talk about our spotlight, we began the year when we received the challenge from Dr. Borisheit about 2.5, and of course our eyes were big. But we accepted the challenge, and so our theme was Power Up 2.5, 2 years and 5 months growth. So everything that we did, T-shirts, cups, you name it, we did it in order to start our campaign and starting our school culture with everyone understanding our goal is to reach 2.5. So we started with having communication with our students. Our students own their learning, they own their data. They communicated that to their parents with our literacy night that we had in the fall. Our teachers really work with our students in small group interventions in both ELA and math classes. We also use our adaptive practice through Freckle. Every 6 weeks are doing the progress monitoring, which we're in right now. And through professional development, our teachers continue to work in our professional learning communities and our data team, which drives our instruction. I have here Ms. Foster, who is our 8th grade ELA teacher, and I would not dare take this time to speak as if I do this work alone, so Ms. Foster will speak at this time.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us here with you. It is a pleasure and an honor to stand before you, but even more importantly, I'm not the sage on the stage ever. So I want to first have my 2 students come and speak and talk about their experiences in the classroom, and then they're really the stars. I'm not a star, so come on. I have with me, because they're just a little bit anxious, I have with me Serenity Burns, and she is an 8th grade student who has already exceeded 2.5. She's right now at 2.8 years of growth before this school year ends, so she's well on target for over 3 years. And then I also have with me Charlie McDaniels, who came to us already at grade level. So he is a student who has to be enriched. So we want you to hear about their experiences in the classroom as well.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Serenity Burns, and I wanted to talk about how I feel like teachers specifically don't challenge students anymore. Like, y'all don't go out y'all way to make them think. Y'all just throw out the answers and y'all don't make them think. I feel like I've grown because in Ms. Foster's classroom, my experience in there is that she makes me think. She makes me challenge my own brain so I can have a more understanding. And I'm not afraid to ask questions. A lot of students are anxious about, well, is this a dumb question, when it's really just a question that they have that they're confused about. So I wanted to say that that's how I grew. I think asking questions and getting clarity, and also I've been reading more. My current read right now is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and I've been reading way more specifically because of Ms. Foster's class, and I want to give her thanks.
Hello, my name is Charlie McDaniel, and I'm here to talk about my enrichment at Gateway Middle School. I feel like Ms. Foster specifically has done a lot to not only teach us the broader things that we need to know, but single out on the few things that I don't know, and really teach me to give me overall better knowledge.
None of this work is possible without our amazing principal here who allows me to do the things that I do in the classroom. I totally believe I've been doing this work for a long time. And for those that you don't know, I have retired twice. And I came back to St. Louis Public Schools on purpose and deliberately. So it is an honor and a pleasure to be here. And in that classroom, these are the stars, and I do push them. There's no way they're going to accomplish any less than they are capable of doing. So thank you so very much for your support.
Before you go, if I could channel President Cousins. Could I ask a question of our students? First of all, in terms of being challenged by the 2.5 years of growth, how did you feel about that? And if you can speak for your fellow students, what was that like to have that challenge? Was it overwhelming, or did you think it was something that you welcomed?
I feel like so many teachers so many teachers don't push you, and so when you're pushed, you're like, whoa, this is unfamiliar, but when you're pushed, you're like, it's not that hard. It's like when you're riding a bike and then your parent pushes you to ride without the training wheels. It's like, oh, I'm scared at first, but then you keep going and it's not that bad.
My other question is, since you're in 8th grade, oh, sorry, Charlie, did you have an answer too? He was walking away, so I figured he was. I'll start with you. Since you guys are both in 8th grade, where are you going to high school?
I will be moving, so unfortunately I will not have the opportunity to attend collegiate school for medicine and bioscience. But I really look forward to going there because it had some things that I was excited to learn. But unfortunately, I will not be going there.
Well, we'll miss you. Good luck.
Okay.
For sure.
I'm currently going to Clyde Miller right now.
All right. Good luck. And I just want to say, as I continue to channel President Cousins, Dr. White, I remember when I came on this board, I don't think we would have spotlighted Gateway Middle School for anything positive. It was coming out of COVID, and I just remember the struggles that were going on there. And I remember you specifically raising your hand and say, I'll do it. And to see these years later, and as we visited you early on in the semester, and visited you last year too with a state representative, I am just so excited and proud of what you've done for that school. And I mean, I agree. I mean, your leadership is just an example of high standards. We're not going to take no for an answer. You believe in these students, you believe in this city, you believe in this school district, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Dr. White, and everyone from Gateway Middle School. I'd like to now invite Dr. Bodie from Ashland Elementary, as she will introduce her student and teacher who are here to share about their growth. Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Bodie.
Good evening, board members and guests. Thank you so much for the opportunity to stand before you this evening. I am very proud of all of the students at Ashland Elementary School. I highlighted this young man in our data presentation, thus we had an invitation to arrive here on this evening. As we speak about the portrait of a graduate, that is a theme that runs through everything that we do in the building. It's not just academics. It is vitally important that you become a whole human being. And so I challenged this young man because the spelling bee competition came up. And he said, I don't want to go to States. I don't want to go there. And I said, oh, sure you do, because you have within you the capacity to reach. And so he came to us this August, scoring 8.1. When we took the January test, he scored 10.9, growing 2.8 years. And better than that, last spring he was at 5.9, so to get to 8.1 to start the year was a gallant leap during summer school with SLPS. Ashland Elementary is one of those schools that is privileged to be a part of the reading and writing cohort, and so he started as one of our third graders in the reading and writing cohort and has made this work real in his life. So I introduce to you Mr. Ivan Rankin and the teacher of record, Ms. Velva Cole.
Well, my name is Ivan Rankins, and I participated in the spelling bee, and I made it to the regional tryouts, but I did not make it.
Hi, I'm Velva Cole. I'm the 4th grade teacher, and I just want to say how proud I am of Ivan. He is my co-teacher some days, and I truly, he checks me, oh no, Miss Cole, no, you skipped this, and I go back, I'm like, yeah, Ivan, I did skip it. Let's go back and redo it. I'm so proud of you. I really am. Good job.
Great job, Ivan. Great job, Team Ivan.
Alrighty, and last but certainly not least, we want to recognize Dr. Carter from Soldan International Studies High School, and she has 2 students here tonight as well. They're going to share their growth.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be recognized for the hard work that we're doing at Soldan. I need to put these on, sorry. I am pleased to introduce 2 of my amazing students who will share with you how they achieved more than 2.5 years growth on the STAR assessments from August to January and how they embody the portrait of a graduate. First up, we have Farrell Washington Smith, who is a sophomore. His reading score grew 3.3 grade levels. And it must run in the family because his big brother, Fateha Washington Kersey, who is a senior, saw similar growth on the math assessment with 3.6 grade levels. And it probably would have been more, but STAR maxes out at 12.9. So, without further ado, I present to you Farrell, who will be followed by Fateha.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Carter, for that introduction. My name is Farrell Washington Smith, and I'm a sophomore at Soldan International Studies High School. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you and speak about the most important thing in education, and that is academic excellence. Because I am driven to be academically sound, I recently learned that I, like some of my peers, increased on the STAR reading test by at least 2 grade levels. I was able to accomplish this by setting small goals, such as increasing the amount of time I read per week, defining the meaning of words for clarity, and asking for my teachers for additional help when needed. These things I have done aligns with the district's model, Portrait of a Graduate, because I am taking the steps to ensure that I am competent in every area of learning. In closing, I would like to extend my thanks to my teachers, counselors, mentors, and family for giving me the support I need to be successful. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fateha Washington Kersey, and I am a senior at Soldan International Studies High School. Being able to attend Soldan has been rewarding and has led me to this recognition this evening, and as a result, I have increased my STAR math scores by more than 2 grade levels. I was able to accomplish this goal by focusing on my weaknesses and improving myself through hard work and determination. My teachers have helped me by going through the process of improving my critical thinking skills. They have stressed the importance of performing well by showing me what could happen later down the road when I believe in myself. This aligns with the district's model, Portrait of a Graduate. I humbly thank my teachers, mentors, family, and support system for setting high expectations for me to insecure. I am college and career ready. Thank you.
Great job, Dr. Carter and Farrell brothers, Washington brothers. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the students or Dr. Carter?
Congratulations on your achievement. That's excellent. Thank you.
I just want to say how proud I am of them. I think the mother in me wanted to cry because there's so many times we see so many negative things out here, but to see all the students that have come up here and spoken, it just really feels so good. Thank you for being who you are.
Before we move, are we done with student presentations? Before we move on, are there questions about the other slides? Ms. Hubbard?
Do you know how the STAR score calculates growth, or how the STAR test calculates growth?
So on the STAR, every student gets a grade level equivalent with their scale score, and then their next scale score also is connected to a grade level equivalent, and the growth is that.
Okay. So we're just doing math, they're not giving you a growth score?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
And I also had a question way up at the top. Okay, so on the early STAR literacy, the second grade looks like they're really struggling, but when they're taking regular STAR, they're doing much better. Could you explain how that works?
So not every second grader takes the early STAR literacy. It is for the students who aren't able to access the STAR yet. And so that's why for second grade, you'll see STAR early literacy and STAR. For students who've maxed out their STAR early literacy, they take the STAR. And so we would expect that the second graders who are still taking STAR early literacy are those who are more below grade level.
I sort of on that end, could you talk a little bit about interventions for students that are struggling with growth? I know particularly in literacy, we've sort of changed a bit of it in terms of the reading specialists going back into the classroom, and then I guess we're sort of empowering the AICs to sort of take on that role. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then could you also talk about, I guess, the SB 681 compliance in terms of those individual reading success plans?
Certainly. So our highest priority is to make sure that the Tier 1 or the general instruction is of a super high quality, and that's the real focus of our reading and writing initiative work this year, is focusing on what's happening during the Tier 1.
Can you also mention our gradual release strategies in our student discourse?
Yep. And so within the Tier 1 instruction, we want to ensure that every teacher understands how to teach through the gradual release method, which is the I do, so they model, they're thinking aloud, the we do, they do it together with students, and then a we do where students do it together with each other, and then a you do where they do it independently. So we're letting students become independent. We're working on students becoming independent learners. We also know that learning is inherently a social activity in our brain, and so if kids are not talking to one another, they're not maximizing their opportunities to learn and learn from one another. And so our other evidence-based strategy that we work on in all areas this year is academic discourse. Now, I know you asked about intervention, and I went right to talking about general instruction, but that's where it starts, because if we don't have high-quality general instruction, then interventions alone are never going to catch us up. Every school in SLPS also this year is working on phonics, and specific phonics instruction for students. We're in the midst of finalizing a review of our phonics program so that we can identify one that will be used across all schools next year that will particularly support all students, but really our K2-ish age students. We want to give them a really solid foundation before they move forward. Students receive small group instruction or intervention. We are using our $2.4 million of allocation from the legislature to support our AICs working with small groups of students from grades 2 through 5 who are below standard, specifically using those phonics programs, because we know with the science of reading that decoding is a big part of what they're working on. It's not the only thing, but it often becomes a stumbling block for students. And so those are kind of the through lines of all the ways. It's really important that students have a seamless experience during the school day. We know that if they're having their regular instruction from a classroom teacher and then they're going somewhere else with someone else and they're going somewhere else with someone else, like that's too many transitions. And the AICs are uniquely poised because the students know them through their work of coaching the teachers in their school The AICs know our assessments, they know the students, and when it comes to the students we're required to have the reading success plans for, they already work with their classroom teachers on designing and planning instruction and setting goals. And so we're trying to make a really cohesive experience for students.
And so could you talk a little bit more about the reading success plans, about the time frame for that and how those are implemented?
Sure. So every student who is not at the 32nd percentile, and so we're talking about percentiles, not grade levels now, is required to have a reading success plan where they identify what their area of need is, and they create a plan with their classroom teacher and their parent and the student, and then they check progress on that. And once students have met that goal through 2 assessment periods, then they can graduate off of the reading success plan. One of the things we're really excited about with our new focus, the student information system, is that we're going to be able to actually have those be electronic within that system so they can move much more easily. Now it's on paper and we can scan and send it back and forth, but that's an area where we're going to be able to track them even better next year.
And one final question, is the STAR test still our screener for any sort of dyslexia?
So we have a dyslexia screener that teachers do in addition to the STAR.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions on this portion before we move next? All right, Dr. Dino.
Thank you.
Dr. Gonzalez, would you join?
Yep, I was going to say, now moving on to our next update, and I'm joined tonight by Dr. Ala Gonzalez del Castillo. She is the SLPS Executive Director of ESOL Bilingual and Migrant Programs, and together we'll be sharing recommendations for serving our newcomer students. Newcomer student enrollment increases each day in SLPS. When these numbers were pulled before the presentation, we were at 885, and as of today, we're over 940. And so we see that many of our newly enrolling English learners are newcomers. These are students who are new to the United States and with a beginning level of English proficiency. As we ensure that our programming meets the needs of our students, it's important that we keep in mind best practices, research, and federal and state guidance. In 2015, the Department of Education and the Department of Justice jointly issued a Dear Colleague letter to outline expectations and practices for instruction for English learners, including the length of stay for newcomer programs being generally around 1 year, and having newcomer English language learners develop, because newcomer language learners develop language at a faster pace compared to their students who've been here longer, and thus having at a higher proficiency level. The National Clearinghouse for English Language Acquisition, as well as our DESE expectations around English learner proficiency growth, demonstrate how important it is for us to focus simultaneously on language development and content acquisition. We no longer believe students first have to learn English before they can learn how to do math. We provide really good instruction that incorporates our language development. They can do both at the same time.
We complete an annual program evaluation and look at a variety of data related to our English language learners' progress, proficiency, and instructional practices used to support their growth. We also seek parent feedback. Tonight, we will share 4 data points with you. The first one is access for ELLs. It is a standardized state assessment of English language proficiency. It is administered annually to all English language learners receiving services. Access 2023 shows that 22% of our newcomers across all 3 newcomer sites are making progress in learning English. Our students just recently completed Access 2024 assessment. The second data point is ELL benchmark assessment. It is administered 3 times a year, and it is helping us monitor students' growth in developing language proficiency in the areas of speaking and writing. This year, 27% of newcomers across all 3 programs showed progress in speaking, and 24% of students in the newcomer programs showed progress in writing. and this is for the first semester of the school year. We also look at instructional practices and capture them in our ELL walkthroughs. So our instructional focus has been on key 3 practices, and that is content and language objectives, linguistic supports, and peer interaction. You can see the percentage of these practices being evident in our Newcomer programs during the 10-minute observation visits. And this data reflects all of our observations in all 3 Newcomer programs conducted during the first semester of 2024-2025 school year. The ESO office regularly conducts parent meetings. We host 4 parent meetings every year and incorporate parent feedback and input as part of those meetings. During our last meeting, which took place on February 26th, we asked our parents to share their aspirations for their children and identify supports they consider important in helping their children reach their goals. We had 55 parents attending the meeting and share their input. 54 out of 55 have had or currently have a student in one of our Newcomer programs. 20 out of 55 parents have a high school student in our programs. We saw a strong correlation between our parent responses and our SLPS portrait over graduate competencies. Our parents want our English language learners to learn English and become college and career ready. They want their children to become doctors, teachers, dentists, engineers in the future.
So that brings us to our first set of recommendations. For our K-5 Newcomer programming, you'll note that for all programming, I want to say, you'll note that we are not recommending closures or eliminations of programs. Rather, we want to align program duration with best practices set out in the Dear Colleague letter, which is 1 year. DESE has also recommended more direct support from ESOL teachers for students in earlier stages of proficiency. And so we are in alignment with our district staffing for other specialized programming. We're recommending a staffing ratio of 15:1. Currently, we have separate allocations for classroom teachers and ESOL staff, which doesn't allow for us to have a comprehensive approach, which is where this staffing recommendation is coming from. We also anticipate that this would be a revenue neutral change. The ESOL office will support the school's comprehensive school improvement plan development and professional development of their evidence-based strategies, again, which are the language and content objectives, linguistic supports, and peer interactions. This professional development we know is key and needs to be ongoing and supported throughout the year for all teachers.
For our Newcomer program at ASM, we also want to recommend to align program duration with best practices outlined in the Dear Colleague letter, which is 1 year. When our middle school Newcomer program moved to ASM last year, the work around integrating Newcomer students for electives and lunch began. And this work needs to continue so that we can ensure that 100% of students are integrating and taking electives with their English-speaking peers. The ESO office will support the implementation of evidence-based practices for the school's CSIP and will also provide professional development to teachers so that they can incorporate content and language objectives, linguistic supports, and peer interaction in all of their classes. For our Newcomer program at NCNAA 910, the length of stay recommendation is similar to the elementary and middle school Newcomer programs. We also want to ensure that our high school newcomers have access to more content credit courses and more elective courses in music, fine arts, CTE, and are integrated with English-speaking peers during those electives. This can be achieved by transitioning NCNAA 910 from a standalone program that is located at Roosevelt to a program within Roosevelt. The ESO office will support the implementation of evidence-based practices for the school CSIP and will also support professional development for teachers to be able to incorporate content language objectives, linguistic supports, and peer interaction during all of their classes.
So you might want to know what are our next steps. Dr. Gonzalez del Castillo shared this information with school staffs last week and had a survey where they could both ask questions or give input, and in fact, we are inviting staff to be part of school-based transition teams. To date, we have more than 60 responses to that survey with questions. We're working on FAQ, so we can respond to the questions that are being asked and taking information about who would like to serve on these transition teams and analyzing all of that input. We are assembling school-specific transition teams, and they will work to develop a transition plan. We know it's important to develop this in conjunction with staff and families. To that end, families will also be invited to participate on these transition teams. Our goal is always to make sure every student has all of the access and opportunity in all of our schools so that they can reach their dreams and develop their competencies for Portrait of a Graduate. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. Dino and Dr. Gonzalez del Castillo? Ms. Hubbard.
Can you tell us a lot more about the Dear Colleague letter?
What parts of it specifically? It's very long.
When did it happen? I missed that. And what it means to have a Dear Colleague letter.
So this Dear Colleague letter was first introduced in 2015, and there have been some updates since then. What was unusual about this one is that it was a combined Dear Colleague letter between the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, focused heavily on their terms are ensuring that our schools are not having unnecessary segregation, because we are not allowed to segregate students based on language or national origin. And so that was part of the thrust of where the Department of Justice got involved there. And the Department of Education, like I said, many things have changed over the decades, right, in education research and language development as well. And so while they recognize that different students are at different places and they encourage newcomer supports, what they don't want is for those places to be where students become stalled, or that we're continuing, like I said, and using their term to unnecessarily segregate them.
Sorry, Ben. Okay, where was my other question? You can answer it. I'm sorry. It'll come back to me.
Mr. Conover.
Dr. Dino, could you, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding, right? So it looks like on the slide with the data dive about access for ELLs and ELL benchmark assessments, at the bottom left-hand corner, there's a 0% for peer interaction. So it sounds like the changes that you're recommending are designed to make sure that there are more peer interactions across the schools. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Great. And then when you say decrease to a maximum of 1 year, that's from a maximum of what currently?
Currently 2 years.
2 years,
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I had one more. Let me find that real quick. With the numbers also on the data site, so there's the newcomer sites that had the 27 and 24% making progress in speaking and writing English. For the all other sites, is that just also ELL programs that are already going on in different schools?
In all of our other schools,
In all of our other schools, great. Good. So it sounds like the recommendations you're making are attempting to meet the goals outlined in the Dear Colleague letter and improve the integration of our ELL programs with our general school programs. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I remember my question.
Ms. Hubbard.
Is there a difference between the newcomer site students and the students that go to all other sites? And whether it's 22 or 25%, we need to get better.
Yeah, we definitely need to increase our percentage of students making progress in learning English. Part of that is ensuring that all of our teachers have access to professional learning as it relates to language development. You'll notice while we call it academic interactions in English for ELD, We do have an academic discourse goal across the district, and because we know that there's still a lot of teacher talk and not a lot of student talk kind of in general, and so these are where these two areas mix together. And when families first come, they go to the ESOL office to register and complete their screening, and at that time, they work with Dr. Gonzalez del Castillo's staff to identify which type of programming they would prefer to have. So they can choose, if they're at the beginning levels of proficiency, they can choose a newcomer center, they could choose an ESOL center where there's more ESOL students together, or they can choose their neighborhood school. So that's where the combination of all other sites comes in.
Okay. And
Secretary, oh, sorry.
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Hubbard,
Ms.
go ahead.
Donna can go. I've been asking a lot.
My question is about parental involvement, and you talked about perhaps a survey of what the parents were looking for when their students came out of the program. I wanted to know, how long do we track the students, and how do you go about keeping up with the parents, and have they achieved their goal?
So I'm going to ask Dr. Gonzalez to talk about her ongoing parent input sessions, okay?
Thank you for that question. So there are a couple of things that we do. First, we assess English language proficiency of every receiving services English language learner on the annual basis. And we share those results with parents. And not only we provide the form with the scores, but we also incorporate that information into our parent meetings so that we can explain to our parents and empower them in understanding what those scores mean. So those are just one example, but there are multiple ways that we notify parents about their child's progress. So when our students reach proficiency on a test, they show that they have reached proficiency in English. There is also a parent notification as they are getting reclassified from the ESOL program. So we are always looking for that communication with parents. And I also want to add a very important component, that communication always needs to be in the language parents understand. So we stress the importance of translating those documents and forms that are sent to parents to communicate with them, using our district interpreters to support that communication to ensure that it is meaningful, and using our language line so that we can ensure that we can support our communication across the board for all of our languages.
Thank you.
So if there's 885 students enrolled in the 3 newcomer centers, how many students qualifying for ELL services do we have across the district?
So currently we have about 2,500 students who qualify for services, and then a total of our students who are current ELLs as well as monitored and accountability year is almost up to 3,000.
And so I remember a previous presentation that you had given to the board, and it's probably getting some time. I think you talked about ELL centers, so not just the sort of immersive, but the schools that you had designated as centers where there's a higher population of ELL students, and then they would have those services concentrated there. Is that right?
So we actually have a variety of programming. So our newcomer centers are specifically for newcomers, and then our other ESOL centers have a high concentration of ELL students, but that is also where we partner with schools for high collaboration in terms of professional development. That is where we see and set goals towards SIOP training, and I've spoken to the board about that before. That is sheltered instruction observation protocol. That is where we see co-teaching happening. So that is a way to integrate services and supports for language development as part of the mainstream classroom, where the ESOL teacher and the classroom teacher partner together. And we also provide services in all other schools because parents sometimes select a non-center school. So we do have itinerant ESOL teachers who make sure that every student who is an identified receiving services English language learner in our district receives services.
And so that's kind of my question is, how are students placed in, are they steered towards that, but they're not forced to go into a certain center? It's still the parent's choice, right?
Absolutely. So Every student who is new to our district, we either assess their English language proficiency, or if they have had a score from another WIDA state, we accept that score. Based on that and other factors, we then talk about options with families. And then we recommend to look at the scores and all of the programming, provide more information to the parent about all of the choices, and then they make their selection.
So is it possible that you wouldn't recommend a student to go to one of the individuals, one of the 3 schools, but they may choose to go that and you would honor that choice? Or is that not a situation that comes up?
So a parent makes a choice of where to go to a school. So there can be a newcomer whose parent prefers to go to a non-newcomer center, but for the most part, newcomer parents have chosen newcomer centers, and that is why we see such a high growth of new students in our 3 newcomer locations.
And in terms of the program being the maximum 2 years, is it, do some students leave before the 2 years to go outside of the program?
Yes, we have criteria for transition, and we work with schools to identify students for transition. So a big part of that criteria is looking at that annual access assessment, because it gives us a reading of how much progress students are making in learning English. And then, of course, we consider other factors for each individual student. So there are students who are meeting that transition criteria based on access.
And do you have statistics on what the percentage of students that are in that 2-year program that go to the end of the program versus how many leave early?
We can get that to you at a later time.
Okay. And in terms of students who maybe haven't met those benchmarks at the end of the 2 years, what do you do for them?
So English language development services for them continue when they go to another SLPS school. And then the ESL teacher and the classroom teacher at those schools pick up the supports and continue to work with students on their language proficiency and their content acquisition.
And so that'll be the same by reducing it to 1 year. You'll still continue to provide those services just in an integrated school.
Yes, we will continue to provide services in all of our schools.
And if we are increasing the amount of students leaving the program early at the 3 centers, is that going to create a burden on the schools that they're going to, that they'll need to add additional staff?
The number of students who will be in our other ESL center schools, it will likely increase. However, I don't anticipate that making a difference in terms of increasing the staffing, because teachers who are utilizing the same ratio is just allocating it to a different school.
So we have capacity in the other schools. Is that what you're saying?
So we have programmatic capacity to staff for all of the students that we have.
Okay.
Yes.
Will it mean moving staff from certain, from the centers to neighborhood schools or other schools in order to make that change?
So at the secondary level in particular, students generally are staying at AESM and Roosevelt. And so there may be those teachers who can do more co-teaching in those locations. We're looking at the staffing ratio at the elementary school so that the classrooms would be smaller.
Because the elementary school, that's the largest population, although it's more grades.
Yep.
And so we'll be seeing more students leave the elementary going into elementary schools. So you'll have to look at staffing to reallocate that if everybody from Nahee Chapman goes to Warner. Okay.
And we look at that information every year anyways,
Anyway.
because sometimes populations of students move, and so we need to change allocations.
And just to understand what those 3 centers, what is happening now, and I guess just starting with the elementary, I guess that's the easiest. So those students really have no interaction with native English speakers during those 2 years because they're only in a school where it is English language learners, right?
That is correct.
And that used to be the case for the middle school program, but now, after the year of AESM, at least they're in the same building with native English speakers, right? And in terms of the transition in that program, you talked about sort of integrating with lunch and I guess non-academic programs and other things. Did that happen right away, or is that something that's still ongoing?
So that's the work that AESM already started, and it just needs to continue so that we can reach that 100% for every newcomer.
Okay. And so currently at Roosevelt, that's not happening. They're two separate programs, and there's not interaction between the ELL program and the regular Roosevelt program?
So currently, those are two, so there is a school and a program that are co-located in the same location.
So they don't have lunch together?
They don't have the same master schedule, and so kids are either assigned to Roosevelt courses or Naheed Chapman courses. They do, of course, since they're in the same building, there are some, I would say, there's definitely interaction between kids, maybe during passing periods or something, but not intentional, structured interaction.
Do they share in extracurricular activities? Okay, so sports and other teams, they are able to do. But in terms of lunch, I guess maybe art class, I don't know, maybe Mr. Murphy's old audio-visual class, the ELL students wouldn't participate in those. Okay, and so with the change, is that the goal? That those non-academic programs, that they'll be able to integrate in those?
Yes, the goal is to increase the options for students for those electives and be integrated with their native English-speaking peers.
And in terms of the high school students in the program now, do they struggle to get graduation credits if they're not able to take those classes as, before the 2 years?
So in fact, our newcomers do take several core courses. However, they do take about between 5 and 7 skill building courses, which give them elective credit, which makes it very hard for students to get to graduation, to accumulate not only that needed number of credits, but also in each of the content areas that is needed.
And will this change help with that problem?
Yes.
Is there any other changes or supports that you have heard from staff since they've learned about this, or parents, or that you envision that are going to be needed that you haven't talked about with us today?
Well, I think one thing that was mentioned in the feedback form from staff that we didn't address here, but I think it's a great idea, is to create opportunities for partnering students, our newcomers and our Roosevelt students, so they can almost serve as mentors, maybe help tour the building, or just be that helping hand around the building, a familiar face.
And what about additional supports besides academics? My understanding of Title III funds and things like that are to support other issues that newcomers may have, such as housing or other training even for the parents. Is that something that is going to be easily translatable as you make this change, and is that going to be something that is going to be continued provided to these students?
So supports for our parents will continue to be provided, so we'll continue to focus on not only building awareness of our parents, but also showing ways that they can partner with us and build their capacity. So we have several opportunities for our parents to become even closer partners with SLPS. So we have opportunities for them to get help setting up emails, take classes for computer literacy so that they can look up information that we post, can participate in some of the forums we ask for feedback or registration, for example. So those supports will continue.
And so if I recall correctly too, in a previous presentation, we talked about how there was a decent amount of sort of attrition, especially from the elementary school, that after students completed the program, they wouldn't stay with SLPS, they may not stay in the city. Am I remembering that correctly?
So that is actually, it pertains to all of our English language learners, so newcomers and English language learners on a higher proficiency level. Families do move outside of the city, unfortunately, so we do lose students. But at the same time, we always welcome new students to our district. So that's, it creates a certain challenge, but it is also a part of ELL programming because there are always new students coming in while we do lose some of the students to other districts.
And I think we talked about, or maybe this is just my theory, that a big hurdle for a lot of those new American families is the lack of safe, adequate, affordable family housing in the city of St. Louis, which forces them to leave. And so I don't know if there's any opportunity that you can see with the changes in this program with, focusing on quicker and more integration, if that would help with that attrition, or if there's just external factors in the city that are beyond our control. And maybe I'm asking too much of a political question there.
Yeah, I think it's a bigger partnership with so many of the stakeholders in our area so that we can all work together to ensure that all of our families have access to housing that will allow them to stay in the city and be in our schools.
Okay, thank you. I've asked a lot of questions. Thank you for your time. Ms. Hubbard and then Ms. Conover.
So I asked if there was a difference between the kids who who choose the newcomer program and the ones who go to the centers or to neighborhood schools. And you said that parents choose, which is not the same as my question. And what I'm trying to ask is how many students in our program are refugees and have experienced interrupted learning or no learning when they get to us?
We can get those specific numbers for you.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
I just had a question about, so with the ELL practices recommendations for change, requiring professional development to equip every teacher with effective strategies, how does that timeline of developing staff's ability with the ELL instruction, how does that timeline align with the recommendations in general going on here?
So our ESOL office already offers both co-teaching instruction and PSYOP training for all staff. What we're hoping to do here is increase the number of staff who participate in those and embed that as part of the school's professional development plan. So it's not so much of a standalone just for people who may want to do it. There are some of our center schools in particular where most of the staff has already received that training, and we're looking to expand that at these sites as well.
Great. And about how long does that training take in general? I know that's probably a complicated level question, yeah.
So over 1 year period, definitely for the training, but I do want to stress that it's important to provide feedback to instruction. So it's that on-the-job, ongoing training that is really critical to ensure that those practices are implemented all the time for all of our students. And I don't think we can put a timestamp on that.
No, I understand. Thank you. And then just quickly, you all mentioned that the numbers of newcomers has been generally increasing in the last few years. I don't want to ask an overly political question like Mr. Davis over here, but with the federal changes going on, in my opinion, unfortunately, do we anticipate those numbers changing at all? Or is that something that's kind of outside of the scope of being able to predict?
That's not something
At
that we
this
can
point,
predict.
we're not able to predict, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think I had one last question that I thought, and I apologize. So currently 885 students, and I guess let's just focus mostly on the elementary. So are there students that, of that 413, who are anticipating to continue in that program next year and will be informed that they're not going to continue in that program and will need to move to a different school?
So that's why we are starting our school-based transition sites the week after spring break so that we can make sure that our transition plan is as smooth as possible.
So do you have a number on how many students that will be?
Well, we can get that. We can get that for all three programs for you, how many are in year one and how many in year two.
And so the transition plan, just so I understand, just walk me through that. So you're going to work at the schools, and then are you going to contact the families and say you're now being assigned to the school, or you're going to have a conversation with them and say you need to pick a school? And then how do you know which school they're going to go to, and how do you do that staffing plan?
So I'll have Dr. Gonzalez Castillo talk about what happens when students transition typically.
So I think the actual answers to your question, Mr. Davis, will be part of the work that the transition team will be working on and engaging in. So it's a little bit preliminary to answer that now. But I can share with you what happens when our students are ready for transition. So there is a series of notifications both for parents and to the receiving schools, as well as sharing some data so that the receiving school can be prepared to receive the student and continue the services. And then our elementary newcomer site has been doing a great job hosting events where receiving sites are invited to come in and visit with students, which is great in facilitating that effective transition. So those are some of the practices that we typically do for transition.
And are families then also then invited to go to the receiving schools and tour as well?
I think that may depend on the school, but we can
Right.
find out and get back with you on that.
I think, I would guess, my experience with SLPS, it depends on the school. And I would hope that we would work to streamline that and make sure that all of the schools that are receiving have the same expectations, that you're going to open the doors and be welcome. You're going to give tours, you're going to be thorough in answering your questions in culturally relevant and language relevant ways. Because I know it's a struggle just for English speakers to transition from school to school in the school district. And I can't imagine if you don't have the wherewithal to sort of navigate this opaque system, which, you know, was inherited by many. If you have hurdles to that, it's even worse. So I would, if this is going to work, I would just imagine that is going to be absolutely key.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Ms. Hubbard.
I'm sorry. What classes will the students be integrated in if they have a low proficiency of English? I'm sorry. If they have a low proficiency of English, are they going to be sent to English-speaking classes to learn math and science?
So we're focusing on integration for electives, right? So a variety of art classes, fine arts, CTE programming. And we're looking at ways to support those classes with an ESOL teacher going in and co-teaching, so that teachers not only utilize the practices they acquire from professional development, but also have that support of an ELL teacher as well. Our newcomers do have dedicated English language development classes, and that will continue.
And you said access to professional development for all the schools that would be receiving 1 year earlier students. That's not the same as required, right?
So all of our ESOL center schools, we already work with them and partner to participate in ELL professional development, specifically around SIAP and co-teaching strategies. So we'll continue that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you. Dr. Boris-Shade, are you asking for approval of this recommendation?
Yes. Having heard the recommendation,
Can I get a motion to accept the recommendation?
Where's the recommendation? Is there one sentence somewhere?
I think it consists of the slides, so
Oh, okay.
can we get a motion to accept the newcomer program recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Conover, seconded by Mr. Hikes. Any further discussion? Ms. Vaughn.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
No.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. At this time, we will hear from Ms. Brookins. Tonight, Ms. Brookins is standing in for Mr. Watson, who is his designee. She is the Director of Operations. She will share an update on transportation, provide an update on Prop S as it relates to CVPA, CSMB, and Gateway STEM. Ms. Brookins.
Good evening, everyone. She just listed a whole lot, okay? However, good evening to President Cousins in her absence, Vice President Davis, Superintendent Dr. Borshade, to all my colleagues, community, and listening audience. I am Jaronetta Brookins, and I am the Director of Operations. On behalf of Chief Watson, I will be presenting 3 presentations this evening. I just ask for a little bit of patience and a little bit of grace as we get through these 3 together, okay? Of course, we align ourselves with our 4 goal areas and our student success goals. We always align with our SLPS strategic values, and it leads into our portrait of a graduate. Our agenda for the transportation presentation this evening is launch plan and timeline, readiness plan, and next steps. The launch plan and timeline in front of you, we did a lot of work in February. As you can see, Zoom services will be our new bus provider starting the 25-26 school year. So in February, we had a lot of work. We had a lot of movement. We had a meeting with the Zoom CEO. They were selected by the board and approved for our vendor. We had an initial planning meeting. We emailed letters, mailed parents who opted in. We did that in February, and we are also doing it this month in March. For the contract review and execution, legal has the contract. It is still in review, but we are very, very anticipating that it will be done by the end of this week. Approved bus order and order fleet, that is on the timeline as well, as we are in preparation for that. Next, on the launch plan and timeline, I just want to briefly touch on things we've been doing here. So for the SLPS side, we did hire a field supervisor and a routing specialist in February. In March of this month, early this month, we hired a transportation associate, and we will continue to fill our vacancies accordingly so our SLPS team can support Zoom and our students as we begin the school year. Bus driver and monitor recruitment and career fairs. So Zoom was here last week. They was here from March 4th to the 6th. They did a career fair. It was absolutely amazing. I did stop in. I did put my eyes on the place. People were excited. People were talking. People were very, very interested in regards to coming on board with the district in serving Zoom. Our Zoom management structure, hiring, and recruitment, that will be ongoing. That will be an ongoing process as we prepare to onboard them. Technology and communication setup training, my apologies for the February date. However, that is an ongoing component as well. For our routers and call center training, we have done that here on the SLPS side internally. We had some dates in March, and we have some more coming up soon. And then we have some dates in April as well. We secured bus facility and depot. That is in process and in discussion. And finally, stakeholder meetings. That includes school leaders, school-based staff, etc. Our transportation team will begin to mobilize and implement that starting in April so we can ensure constant communication and transparency. Our readiness plan. Zoom is going to recruit and onboard key roles. That's going to happen between March and May 2025. And just listed are a few of the positions. They are key, crucial positions. As I know our parents have, and as our faculty have, as our staff has, as St. Louis Public Schools community have. We are so excited to look for this partnership because what we need is consistency. General manager, safety supervisor, instructors, trainers, operation manager, maintenance manager, technicians, road supervisors, and customer service representatives. Zoom will conduct driver classes from March to July 2025. Fleet delivery will be It's always estimated, but of course, we plan May 25 to June 2025. And of course, they would do dry runs. That means they would test the routes July 2025, and we would be ready for opening day. Next steps. We will continue to monitor transition, implementation plan, and milestones, conduct weekly meetings. That means when we talk to Zoom, we're talking about recruitment, staffing, onboarding training, fleet and equipment, routing, operational challenges, and of course, communication and continued transparency. The hope and goal in regards to transportation as we provide these updates to the board every month, we want you to watch this timeline come to fruition. We want you to see what is about to happen in August when we shine on opening day. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Ms. Brookings? Mr. Hikes?
How many parents have you had to opt in for bus drive, for pickup? You had a
10,000.
rough estimate, 10,000?
10,200 approximately.
Thank you. Ms. Hubbard? Oh, sorry, you were reaching for your button. I just want to ask, and I believe I heard this, but I think Mr. Watson promised that of the 10,200 family students that opted in, they will have their assignment before they leave school for summer break. Correct. You did the opposite. You turned your mic off.
Don't do that.
No, I do it all the time.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That is, when I tell you that is the horizon, the goal, yes, sir. That is correct.
I'm just going to keep asking.
Absolutely.
We're going to make it happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, guys. So I didn't tell you that, like, since I'm doing 3 presentations, when we get to the third one, y'all got to say, what? But we're going to go ahead and get into Prop S. This is our construction update in regards to Prop S for the district. Our agenda for this presentation is projected schedule, project scope and summary, upcoming Prop S projects. So this is a projected schedule that was provided to us by our team, Navigate Building Solutions. As you can see, the middle column in red is highlighted. That highlights where we are starting right now, spring 2025. We have a few things highlighted that we are working on. Of course, auditoriums, bathrooms. You see cooling towers. We have a little bit of in regards to painting, some roofing projects going on in the district. This is the project scope summary. So this just lists, I won't read this all to you guys, but this just lists the things we have accomplished. For instance, restroom upgrades, that's 45 district-wide. Drinking fountain installations, 234. We did roofing and replacement restoration at 15 schools. And then, for instance, we did exterior door replacements at 100. Next, I'm just going to slow a few slides in regards to before and after some projects in our schools. As you can see, flooring, we have before and after for Nottingham and Sumner. We have some painting projects at Walbridge and Pomosia and Cole. I believe that's room 200. We have playgrounds. So Warner, they did not have one. Now the after is a nice playground on their surface. And Sticks is also a before and after. So CVPA, CSMB, and Gateway STEM restrooms. These pictures show the before and after. We have boy restrooms and the girls' restrooms. Next, we have CSMB, CVPA, CSMB. We have some restroom renovations there, some before and afters. We're also showing our Amoresco. These are just boiler processes in place for progress. So that's Class C, Miller, Malamphy, Walbridge, and Washington Montessori. Then we have Ashland, Dewey. They did the Bryan Hill lighting progress at Bryan Hill, and then Bush for progress. Here's some of the North summer renovations. We have Lexington Library before and after. As you can see, the pretty green wall was added to the after. We have Lexington main office, the before and after. And then finally, we have Class C Miller, the entrance, the before and after. Next, for the South summer renovations, we did doors. We did Roosevelt, Compton, Drew, and Mason. And then we did some lighting, Shenandoah Hall lighting, Woodward, and Compton Drew cafeteria. This is Garland Roofing, so these are some roofing projects. We did Beaumont before and after, and then Compton Drew, that's in progress. Here's some upcoming projects in regards to auditoriums. I will not read this list, however, they do include theater seat replacement, lighting, acoustic panels, HVAC, just everything that to make our school auditoriums what they need to be. Upcoming projects, at Gateway STEM. Those will include some locker room upgrades, gymnasium upgrades, new esports classroom. Then at CVPA CSMB, it's the north vestibule entry on the Arsenal side, south vestibule entry and parking lot upgrades on Kemper, and dance studio renovations. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Questions on Prop S?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, but I do have a compliment. I've been to many of those projects, and it's just overwhelming to see the difference that it makes, and the students are so happy because they really deserve the very best, and I'm praying that in the future we can add even more to those buildings because our students need to see every dollar that's been allocated for them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I just have a suggestion or recommendation. We received an email from a PTO president at a school a little while ago who I guess she had some information or had noticed a project upcoming at her school and was asking for the update, and the update was actually very exciting, very good news. I wonder if there's a way for individual schools, for parents and staff to sort of communicate a little more clearly about this is what we've done, this is what's coming up. And I know the timelines can be shifting for various reasons, but if there's just any sort of way to do that. The signs outside, aren't as exciting as I had hoped they had been, and the dashboard is a little generic. But I just to see that PTO president's excitement to learn about that project and report that she, communicated that at the PTO meeting and everybody was excited. I just wondered if we could capitalize on that a little bit. Just a thought.
Absolutely received.
And the final presentation, RCI.
Somebody follow the assignment. We get 3. Again, we're aligning this with our SLPS strategic values. Student success goals, our portrait of a graduate. Our agenda for this presentation is the overview of the fixed asset project, timeline of district-wide fixed asset inventory to date, and next steps. So RCI, they're a consultant firm. We're brought in to assist SLPS, district leadership team, to restructure the fixed asset inventory process. This team comes in and they will coordinate and conduct on-site inventory process, beginning with a unique tagging barcode system on every applicable asset. The inventory firm will scan each item and assign it to the appropriate campus location and group with other assets at the same location. The inventory firm will work along SLPS inventory project technicians from purchase to final disposition to accurately track and report the asset. RCI, this is just a timeline of inventory and reconciliation to kind of see what they've done so far. So the RCI team have been in the district. They have spent 1,090 hours of on-site inventory between January 14th and February 7th. They have conducted the fixed asset inventory per the project scope. They have worked at 53 campuses. They have completed work at 53 campuses. They have inventoried over 6,000 rooms, inclusive of 1,619 classrooms across completed campuses. And also they have barcodes laid and information has been recorded on over 6,760 assets across the district. So just to give you a timeline of how this started, in December, on the 16th, we did an introductory project kickoff call with the finance department and the operations department. January 2nd, we had a pre-inventory meeting with the SLPS leadership team and RCI to discuss the process, confirm dates, answer inquiries to make sure we were all aligned on the same page in regards to this project. January 3rd, the RCI team and SLPS inventory project technicians They visited several school campuses, including our district warehouse, because they had to determine where to start. Where's your starting point? January 7th, we had a Zoom call with the RCI Director of Operations was held, and we collected outstanding information as we prepped for the project. January 14th, our on-site inventory began. February 5th, a meeting with RCI team and SLPS inventory project technicians was held via Zoom so we can discuss the project and update the process. Next steps. Actually, RCI came yesterday. They arrived to SLPS yesterday, Monday, March 10th, for the completion of the physical inventory across 15 campuses, 7 service locations. Once collected, RCI's internal operations team will begin preparing a database for SLPS. The process is scheduled for 4 weeks. However, it can be completed in less time due to the team because they've been here working, and they may complete it a little bit faster because they're working on data collection during their prior trips to the district. Finally, at the conclusion of their physical inventory, RCI will provide SLPS with the software we need to complete future inventories at no additional cost to the district. Are there any questions?
Questions about fixed inventory assessment. Well, I'm excited about this. When was the last time this was done?
Years and years and years ago.
And the DESI regulation, our newly adopted finance policy, and the ongoing audit recommendations are that this happens every 2 years?
Yes, sir.
And so this will position us to more effectively complete that per the regulations, the policy, and the corrective actions that have been outstanding for many years.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. See, it is exciting. Ms. Jones.
Thank you, team.
Thank you.
I can't even remember when this has ever been done. And I know I've been here almost 18 years. So I'm really pleased that we're doing this finally. And I appreciate everyone that put the effort in. The building that we have that currently houses many of our assets, will they be inventory in that building as well?
Yes, ma'am. They started this week. They started yesterday.
Yay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
What, do you need a woohoo? Or what?
I need a woohoo. I told y'all what I needed.
Woohoo.
This moves us into our last presentation, and you will hear from Dr. Smith, Ms. L., and Mr. Malone about the amazing work that is being done to support our students, the work that is being done to support our parents through Parent University, and the work that is to come to empower men and fathers throughout SLPS with the Men to Mentor program. Dr. Smith.
All right, thanks, Chair Netta, for warming the crowd up for me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. SLPS is doing great things, and I think I like it. Greetings to the board, and Tony Cousins in her absence, President Cousins, to all the rest of the board members on the Diaz, to our superintendent, Dr. Millicent Boris-Shade, and all of the individuals that came in the audience today, the family members, the supporters, and all of that. I bring you greetings. So I'm here to represent the Student Support Services Department, and I have the pleasure of not only be started off with a high, seeing all of those wonderful scholars that filled the room that we didn't even have room enough to receive, but I get to end this on another high talking about some of the great programs and initiatives that we have in Student Support Services, working in tandem with our academics department. We have individuals who show up every day to try to eliminate barriers that pose a challenge to our academic success. So, having said that, we're going to jump right in. As Dr. Borisha said, I have 3 presentations today. I want to make sure that we always call attention to our student success goals. We know that these are not the only goals that we are pushing on in the district, but these are our flagship goals that have been voted and approved by our board. Also talking about the through line, I'll mention the through line a couple of times throughout this presentation because we have some clear alignment of things that's happening when we think about our strategic values across our student goals and the things that we're trying to do in the department. And last but not least, our promise to our graduates. You saw great examples of our portraits of a graduate throughout this evening, and that's why I said that we're on the high, and I do want us to end on that same way. Again, we have individuals that continue to choose SLPS. We saw students that
chose SLPS. We saw leaders that chose SLPS, staff members with over 30 years choosing SLPS. In my presentations, I'm going to continue to push on that theme and talk about parents that's choosing SLPS, as well as community members that's choosing to partner with SLPS on behalf of our students and families. So I'm going to talk about our registration update. I know it's been mentioned a couple of times, but I do have some solid numbers for you where we are as of today. We're going to talk about our intent to return, as well as our new application. We're going to talk about our parent university, and then our very newest initiative that kicked off and launched this year, our male mentoring initiative. Again, I can't take credit for all of this great work. It happens around collaboration with student support services and the various departments that we have here in the district. Parent University is led under the direction of Ms. Deborah L., the Director of Family and Community Engagement, and our Male Mentoring Initiative is kicked off under the leadership of our Manager of Family and Community Engagement, Mr. Donald Malone. The registration update is definitely a partnership with Mr. Stephen Anderson and his team under registration and recruitment, along with Lou Kruger and student applications and our pupil accounting department. Let's talk registration. So the district promoted early registration to identify the families that was returning to SLPS. And this was important for us to be able to just kind of identify the appropriate resources that we would need for our staffing. And also, it was an important process to our new transportation partner, because those families that completed that early registration process would be prioritized for transportation. And as you heard our board members say, those individuals will have their routes and all the information that's going to let them know when and how and where they need to be transported to school. They will have that information before they depart for the summer. Even though we had an early registration goal, registration still continues. So if there's any families out there that did not submit their registration, it doesn't stop. We still want to make sure all 18,587 anticipated students have registered their intent to return to SLPS. We want to know that you have chosen us, because we keep trying to make you understand that we are choosing you in return. So this presentation is a little older. We have to submit our slides at a certain time. So at the time that this was submitted, the most updated number we had at the time was our March 3rd count, and it showed that we had about 8,000, over 8,000. Even my glasses aren't working. I think it says 780. I could be wrong with these glasses. Also, if the board members want, we do have each school and the percentage of returns that the schools are having. We had schools when we first launched this that had 0%. 1%, 4%, and as you see now, we have schools that have already achieved 100% of their families submitting their intent to return, and that number has increased, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But board members, you are more than welcome to have a full report of that. Also, not only are we counting our intent to return, we have another layer that we're collecting around our new registration. So these are individuals that are interacting with our application for the first time. Now, granted, there will be some cleanup, because sometimes individuals who are submitting this new application may be a family that's already here and submitted an incorrect application. We have had some individuals that are outside of the district lines that have submitted the application, but that just shows that there's people that still want to choose SLPS even though they're not in our attendance area. So we have those numbers as well. So I'll talk about those two numbers to let you know what our calculations are and how we got there. Also, what we've been doing at the end of each business day, the numbers come in, 4 o'clock, and we are definitely watching those numbers intently. This was just a snapshot of where we were on that March 3rd date. I know people have asked, what is our current numbers? As of today, close of business, for our intent to returns, we have 10,354 as of 4 p.m. today, as well as new applications that have been submitted, 2,118. So well over about 13,000 people have been interacting with our application, showing that they are choosing SLPS. It was okay to clap for that, too. I just want y'all to know. Next up, I want to talk about Parent University. We are super excited about Parent University. This vision came from our leader, probably a little bit beyond summer of last year, because we had our actual launch of Parent University in the summer. So Parent University is out of the FACE office, and it was a coordinated effort
girded in our dual capacity framework, which is a framework that we use in order to show and demonstrate our family-to-school partnerships in our schools. The plan was to facilitate school activities and events that are linked to learning and to provide resources for our families. We also make sure that we're collaborating with our SLPS departments, and we organize district-wide and local events for our schools, and we partner with our faith-based partners and our community partners to make sure this initiative is a success. So you may be asking, why a parent university? Well, girded in the citywide plan, our superintendent again saw a vision for how we can connect not only just the internal people, our external partners, our legislators, everyone who has an interest in making sure that students are successful. Also coupled with that is research. Research supports that children achieve more and they're more academically sound when their families are proactively involved in the schools that they attend. So this inaugural SLPS Parent University was designed to do all just that, foster a sense of community throughout our entire school system. And this sense of community can lead to, just like it says there, increased collaboration, increased parent participation, increased trust in schools, which also leads to greater academic performance for our students. You may be asking, what are some of the expected outcomes and takeaways that we had when we first thought about this parent university? First and foremost, we wanted connected and engaged families. We wanted to make sure that children were learning and developing appropriately and that parents and families understood what that meant in the learning process. We wanted our families to be engaged as co-creators, as supporters, as monitors, as models, as encouragers. We wanted them to be their children's first teacher and their best teacher, as well as their strongest advocate. This was to result in strengthened families and opportunities for the best educational outcomes for all of our students. And that's no matter where in SLPS they choose to learn. So you might ask, what's a little bit more about this parent university? Well, as you see here, it's a 9-week coordinated learning program. The sessions are held the first Thursday of each month with the exception of April. April's actually held on April 10th. And the reason for that pivot is because as we're having these conversations with parents, we're talking to them and their children about college access, about how college can be available for them, regardless of what their initial circumstances may be. We want children to dream beyond their circumstances. So on April 10th, we're having our Parent University held on the campus of Harris-Stowe State University. So we'll do our regular workshop, child care, providing meals, providing information, and then it will conclude with a campus tour, as well as individuals getting a chance to talk to campus individuals around the experience of a college education. Not only that, we have our own students who are students at Harris-Stowe University that are participating in the dual enrollment program that will be coming and providing their experience to the families and parents that come, as well as we have invited or will be inviting students that know and anticipate that there will be students coming up in the fall at Harris-Stowe State University, so they can talk to our families about why they chose HSSU and what led them to the decision to continue their education. Our facilitators are certified educators. They're accredited licensed professionals in their field. They're noted authors. We've had individuals from the health department, from Scholarship Foundation to talk about college scholarships and things like that. We've had a wealth and a variety of individuals to pour into our families. And how did we do this? Well, we did lots of assessing our parents, getting their interests, trying to understand what their needs were, what did they want to learn more about, what did they feel like the gaps were in their knowledge base of advocating and supporting their children. So after that, we had the proposal that we presented to our superintendent. We were able to secure funding with her support. And then we started to build those community relations to make sure that we had all of those things, all of those interests that they identified were actually able to be put into place. And then, of course, we're always interested in a cycle of continuous improvement, so we do evaluations at the end of our sessions, and we build on that feedback in order to make each session better and better. As I stated, collaboration is paramount to the work that we do in student support services. We think about our partnerships as being purposeful partnerships and making sure that we're bringing the right people to the table when we're talking about bringing resources and advocacy for our families. So I won't read those to you. You can see just some of the people that we have collaborated with, and that list is not exhaustive. I won't read this to you, and the board members can definitely have this information. I just wanted you to kind of understand that we did have a robust syllabus for this program. It kind of outlaid every single topic, the facilitators, and then a description of what those things were. I'll just slide through a couple of these because I want to get to this slide. Once families left each session, they not only walked away with a wealth of information, handouts, and different materials, they also had some information that was like a follow-up or an extension of the learning that they had at each session. So at each session, families also got these learning maps that allowed them to understand or extend the learning that they had with additional activities, additional resources, things that they can download. We made sure it was things that they had that they can access at home that wouldn't require them to have any additional costs and things that would be, again, prohibited to them to be able to have this additional learning at home. So let's talk about our audience. Our audience for our Penn University was open and welcome to all families across all schools. I kind of gave you some attendance numbers. So when we had our first launch from March to July, we had about 130 parents attend. Our September through December attendance was our greatest number of participants. We had 378 during that period. And then January and February, you know, sometimes colder months, the scare ice kind of did impact some of our February attendance, but we still rounded out with 109 parents in participation. In addition to parents, we have been busting at the seams for the child care that's been provided by our ECE staff. So we have been providing child care by the ECE staff and volunteers from Metro. So there's students that's getting particular community service numbers have been coming to help support those families so that they can have time away from their kids, so the kids are in a learning environment where they get to socialize and have activities, as well as the parents get to learn in an environment knowing that their children are safe and they can concentrate and focus. We did also have an older group of students, so those that was third grade and above. We had additional family support specialists working with those students, again providing opportunities and educational resources for those students while their parents could learn. We are so excited about graduation. So these parents are coming to this event. They are dedicating themselves. I talked about some through lines, and I got super excited and I get super motivated because we saw earlier all the children that was honored. Paula Bodie brought up a young man that she honored and talked about how his growth has just been exponential. And then I had to look back because I talked to Mr. Malone and I said, that's his mom. So his mom that brought him is one of the parents that has perfect attendance at our Penn University. So there's no way you can't tell me that there's some alignment between that student pushing that parent and that parent pushing that student. I almost see it like the Wonder Power, the Wonder Twins, and they kind of help enforce each other for the powerful outcomes that they're both receiving. So I think it's going to be so wonderful for those students to sit in the audience and watch their parent be honored, just like that parent tonight got to sit in the audience and watch her child. So it's those through lines that's very important to us. This is a hard crowd. It's okay to clap for that too. All right, so parents who participated in Penn University did so because they wanted to. There was no monetary, there was no stipend, there was no compensation, there was nothing but purely interest in wanting to learn and do better, wanting to navigate the resources, wanting to know what was available, how can I best support my child, what kind of questions should I be asking when I go to parent conferences, how do I access the parent portal, what does that mean, what am I looking at, what do these scores mean? You talk about my student raising 2.5 grade levels. So we had all those conversations and provided all of that support to our families through the parent engagement. So we do encourage you all, there'll be more information that comes out about our graduation, our culminating event on May 8th. It will be the entire pomp and circumstance. We want these parents to feel proud about their accomplishment for dedicating themselves and committing to this initiative. So they'll have the cap, the gown, the regalia, there's going to be a keynote speaker, there'll be a reception, they'll get a framed award, and they'll also be recognized at a future board meeting. So you'll get to celebrate them twice. And last but not least, what we're super excited about again is our Father Engagement and Male Mentoring Initiative. We launched this in January with just a plethora of conversations and individuals coming around the table, men that are committed to making sure that this is going to be a successful project in the district. So this is again out of the Family and Community Engagement Office. The Men to Mentors, we're talking about fathers and male caregivers impacting the lives of children. So this slide is very important because it gives you a little bit of research around the key roles that having a male presence in the life of kids will have. There's so much research about having a positive adult in the lives of kids, but there's additional research that shows that if that positive adult in the life of a child is a father or a male caregiver, just the impact in percentages about what that means and resonates for that child. The huge one that's there, it says higher graduation rates. There's a 90% a positive correlation for those children that have a positive father or male caregiver, that there's a 98% impact on their graduation rates. And some of those other statistics there are just wonderful. And so we want to make sure that we are providing those opportunities. Every student may not be fortunate enough to have a father in their life, but if it's up to us in SLPS, they will have a male caregiver, male mentor, male impact, male interaction in their lives that will help them reach these statistics that you see here on the screen. So the mission of the Meal to Mentor is going to be a dedicated space for fathers and male caregivers. And what we want them to do is engage in their children's academic and their social success. This is going to happen through, as it says here, shared interests. It's going to be access to that, make sure they know how to access resources, know where to get resources, know which resources they need to empower them to take an active role in their students' lives. And this is in alignment with our Transformation Plan 4.0 and will still be in alignment with our Transformation Plan 5.0 or whatever the nomenclature will be once it's erected. What's our rationale for this new initiative? Because SLPS wants to empower fathers and male caregivers through skill building, robust support networks, practical resources, and all of this is to support them in becoming a catalyst, an impactor in their children's academic success or those children who they're going to be mentoring or supporting. These workshops and things and experiences that we're going to provide for these individuals in this program will impact and influence what types of things. It's going to impact and influence the role of fathers and male caregivers in the academic success of students. It's going to impact school involvement and home learning, and it's going to provide them strategies to improve literacy, health, and emotional well-being, which takes us back to our board goals. It's about student well-being, and that's from everything from academics to social to emotional to physical to mental. All of that is very important. Our strategies provide tailored workshops, and they're going to be led by, again, local experts and professionals that are the experts in their fields. We have also provided some strategies to gain some direct input from participants, and we're going to also ensure that the content reflects what their most pressing priorities are. Again, we said that there's a correlation to the transformation plan. You can read through all the tenets of the transformation plan, and I'm sure each of us can understand and think about ways that a male's presence can impact each of these pillars. I'm not going to take time to read these to you, but through that survey process and these gentlemen coming around and having some conversation around what they feel will help empower them as men, we came up with a slate of potential topics, and now we're coordinating partnerships and expertise in these areas to provide these particular workshops to our clientele. And I'll let you take a second to read some of the additional workshops that's provided. We have an events calendar. Most of these events is not exhaustive on the screen. We will have quarterly workshops that will continue to be developed as we develop feedback and as we develop partnerships. It's going to help us to make sure we implement these particular workshops that individuals are interested in. Our first actual physical opportunity is going to happen on April 26th. That's GO. That's the St. Louis Marathon. Some of you may even be familiar with it, may have participated with it. You will see a presence from SLPS, and our males and our mentors will be manning a table. We'll be signing up people. We'll be telling them who we are. We'll be encouraging them to come to St. Louis Public Schools as volunteers, as mentors, as anything that will support this community of learners in our district. So hopefully you'll be at GO, and you'll see us there. Stop by our table. We'd love to have you and interact with you. This is leading up to a lot of activities that's going to happen in Men's Health and Awareness Month, which is the entire month of June. There's a calendar of activities that's happening community-wide, and you'll start to see SLPS male caregiver and father presence at these events throughout the month of June. All of these activities, these quarterly workshops, the GO, the Men Wellness Month, is leading up to what we hope will be the largest kickoff of male accessibility, male visibility in our district, because on August 18th of 2025, it's going to be fathers and male caregivers bring your kids to school day. So we want all of our parking lots, all of the doors that when our students are being brought into school, that they're being brought by. We're not saying mothers can't come. We want you to come too, but we definitely want to see our father and male presence on that bring your kids to school day on August 18th. And you see there just some of the potential partners that we're starting to have conversations with to make sure that we again implement these activities. In my closing, I'm going to ask Ms. Deborah L. and Mr. Malone, and if Mr. Anderson is still here, to join me in case there's questions. I do want to make sure that I point out that I thank this board for allowing me to lead. I feel like I get to work with some of the greatest servant leaders in the district. We show up to work every day. This team works hard. They do the best they know how to do on behalf of kids, and the more we know, the better we'll grow. And we thank you for putting your trust in us and all the things that we'll do to make sure that every student at SLPS is that portrait of a graduate, and our promise to them will be fulfilled. Mr. Malone and Ms. Deborah L., will you please join me?
Questions for Dr. Smith or her team? Mr. Hikes.
I don't really have a question. I just like to say, I really appreciate this because, you know, we have to realize in order for our kids to do better, the parents have to be by their side. You know, we'll have people come here and stand right there and say our kids can't read. Said it all morning, our kids can't read. But we know here that if mom and daddy is by our kids' side, they do better. Because earlier, what did we have? We had a boatload of kids and a boatload of parents. They do better. Now, and I also know that I can't throw a book at a child and say, read, if he ain't ate all day.
Absolutely.
Can I get amen?
Amen.
See, I understand that. I understand it takes, besides them that said my kid can't read, why their kid can't read? Is mom and daddy at home? Are they eating? Because I'm going to tell you, when I'm hungry, I ain't worried about reading. I'm not worried about reading if I'm hungry. So I appreciate this parent university. I love it. Because I'm blessed to have both of my parents, and that's why I finished school. Because I was a knucklehead. I'll tell the truth, shame the devil. I was a knucklehead. I appreciate this. And what we are doing, child care? Who does that? Who does
St.
that?
Louis Public Schools.
Say it one more time.
St. Louis Public Schools.
See, we're doing stuff here. We're trying to do what's best for our community. It ain't for one child. So I really appreciate the fact that you all set this up to show St. Louis. I wish the news was here today. Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 6. I wish they was here today to see what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
You know, because I'm getting tired of people, and if I'm out of order, Vice President, get me together. I'm getting tired of people throwing rocks and hiding their hands. I didn't get on this board for that. I got on the board to help St. Louis. Because St. Louis, I was blessed to be what I was because of St. Louis. I got my foundation at St. Louis Public School. So I appreciate you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Mr. Conover.
I want to second everything Board Member Hike said, so thank you for that.
Were you a knucklehead too?
No comment. No comment. Yes. Okay, so I also just wanted to highlight the work you're all doing with the registration update. That might seem like a less interesting, less fun, just a bunch of numbers thing, but at least in my experience with the district and in advocating for public schools in St. Louis and Missouri, having these numbers at this time is very, very good for this district especially. And so, you know, it may seem like a small thing that we're keeping track of that as well as we're doing right now, but I think that's needs to deserve some more credit than I think we're giving it. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. And just to piggyback on that, we taught our families to fish because we could have easily just got their response and created the information ourselves, but we had parents that had never once logged into their parent portal for the entire existence of their kids in SLPS, and they're engaging in this new system. And so I think that that's commendable for our families as well.
Yeah, you can see the success. Thank you.
I just want to thank you for fulfilling a dream. For years and years and years, I've heard conversation about we should do this and we should do that. Well, finally it has happened. And I can see one part of SLPS that has kind of attributed to the before and after school program. Where do they do that? I mean, it's such a luxury to be able to get off your job and pick your children up after 5 o'clock, you know, in a safe environment, and to be able to drop them off as well, and then to learn about the parent university and know that there are people there who really care. And I appreciate the attention that's being given to the male population, because many times men, sometimes it seems that they feel like they're not going to be included in those education activities with their children. But I really love it, and I appreciate it, and thank all of you all for being who you are and doing what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Support Services team.
And we're so excited. We're so excited. St. Louis Public is doing great things, and we think we like it. Thank you.
So according to our new agenda, this is the portion of the meeting where we have board committee reports and any other board reports. So are there any board reports at this time? I have two quick ones. First of all, the governance committee met, I think it was a week and a half ago, and it was a marathon session to go over revisions to the bylaws, which first began a couple of years ago. And so I want to thank Ms. Hubbard, Ms. Cousins, Ms. Jones, Dr. Hubbard, and Dr. Borshade. I'm really impressed with that work, and we will be presenting that final product at the work session to be voted on in April. And then in addition to the finance policies, which have already been changed, it's my understanding MSBA has delivered the human resources policies. So that's going to be worked on with the administration, and my assumption is, as difficult as the finance ones were to get through, human resources is 10 times more difficult. But I appreciate everybody in the administration indulging the board in doing that important work, which is about 2 decades overdue. We'll be having intermittent governance committee meetings as needed in the coming weeks to finish those projects. And I also want to thank Dr. Borshade for instituting the first part of our onboarding process, which Mr. Conover is the guinea pig of, and we will have that ready to go in April when we have more board onboarding as well. So thanks for everyone engaging with the governance committee. Finally, the legislative committee will have meetings on Friday, March 28th and Friday, April 4th at 9 a.m. Our lobbyist, Mr. Carroll, will be with us at least in one of those meetings, if not both, hopefully at both, to give us legislative updates. The legislature will be having their spring break at the same time as ours next week, and then they will have a month and a half to do their damage. There are, and we'll have a full update from Mr. Carroll, there are a couple of bills that we are supporting, which we expect to have hearings on coming up. Most important, I think, is the fix to the retirement system, which will be heard in the pension system. So we anticipate offering testimony in support of those changes to get the pension back on the right track. And as well, we'll be watching very closely the budget negotiations. The governor was not proposing to fund the Senate Bill 727 proposals that were introduced last year, but it's our understanding that the Senate budget chair has said that he is going to stand by the commitment that the Senate made. So there may be a little bit of drama coming on, but it would be good news for public education for an otherwise bad bill to fulfill the compromise that they made to do voucher expansion. And there's a whole bunch of other bad stuff that may or may not pass, so we will stay tuned and we'll have those updates at the legislative session. So that's my board report. Any other committees? Ms. Hubbard?
Yes, the real estate committee met yesterday, and in open session, we had a really informative report from the Parent Action Council's housing and what is the I for? Tax abatement and TIFs. And they just gave us a lot of really good information about how developers would like the children of St. Louis to help subsidize their buildings, and what we can do to kind of push back against that and make sure that St. Louis can grow, but not at the expense of its children. So I'm looking forward to working with them in the future. And welcome, Ben, to the Governance Committee.
And the Legislative Committee, you're going to have to get to work. Any other reports? Next item is approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next on the agenda is items for discussion. I see there are none. Items for information. We have listed the credit card statement. Any questions about the credit card statement and supporting documentation? Seeing none. Items for... Yes, ma'am.
I'm so slow.
Sorry. It's late. Moving on.
Yes. I think it's so great that we have these going forward, and there are very stringent rules in place. But I don't think we're truly going to regain the trust of our community until we go backwards and start at the beginning. But I'm real thankful that we're doing our best now going forward.
Any other questions or comments about the credit card statements? Next item for action, I see none. I wonder if, Dr. Borchdave, we should note that items for action should have probably included the 2 votes we took on the bond resolution and the in the New American Academy recommendations, but we can discuss that later. But just a thought, and again, bear with us as we're experimenting with our new agenda. Public comment. Mr. Jackson.
Greetings and good evening to our board. Out of respect for our board members and their mission to conduct district business, we will continue to enforce guidelines for public comment. They are as follows. Citizens interested in commenting should sign in between 6 and 6:30 p.m. Each commenter will have up to 3 minutes to address the board. Each commenter must remain respectful and refrain from using names or speaking derogatorily about anyone. Only one individual or group should speak to the same point or on topic. Finally, if you are not allowed to speak, you may submit your information in writing to our board, and you're also invited to return to our next meeting. First, we will have Mr. Chester Asher.
To the board member's earlier point, this board isn't done enough. Because you can pack this room with 100 kids that can read really well, but you have thousands that cannot. Reading scores have decreased since this board president came in 2019 from 22%, which is already horrible, to 20%. In the last year, it declined another 0.5%. So what are this board's thoughts and the president's thoughts about the lies she keeps telling people that reading is getting better? If 20% sounds like less than 22%. So I fail to understand how the president keeps saying reading is getting better, and this board stays silent and complicit. So I'll wait for the answer. You're right, there is none. There is no good reason to lie. Why did this board president and this board approve millions of dollars of no-bid contracts that the former superintendent brought that sent the current superintendent to Japan for thousands of dollars, that spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for a citywide plan that no one uses. What was the purpose of that? And why did this district waste the public's money and now comes back to the public for tax increases? Nothing? Okay. Last question. There are more behavior issues in classrooms now than there were 4 years ago when the president took office. What has the president or this board done to improve, to reduce suspensions and improve behavior in the classroom? Nothing? You can do this dog and pony show all you want. The data doesn't lie. When we see that kids, when you look at the percentages of kids who can read and they can't, when kids can't make basic deductions after they read, they can't summarize what they've read, they can't, you can pack this place even with 1,000 kids. You still have about 16,000 that can't read on grade level, and you should be ashamed.
Rourke, Shuk.
Yeah, so hello. A lot of my comments were about the newcomers change in program. I know that it sounded like it was, how do I say, approved. However, there's still just a bunch of questions I have about the program that gives me little faith in it. For instance, while there was a presentation, there was no numbers of students that need to transition to a new school. This is a question asked by you folks on the board. There's also no answers about what happens to the students after they transition. For instance, the person that spoke said that they know what happens to students who are ready to transition, but they do not know what will happen to the students that will be forced to transition after the program ends for a year. And I just don't think that is a very good leg to stand on, especially if you're going to approve such a big program change. Also, they say that classes will be integrated, but there's no talk about how staff is going to be changed, or if those staff will be appropriately trained by the time that those students enter those classrooms. And there's also no talk about how is the interaction of students being graded or being studied. This, like, the chunk of it was like, this is supposed to integrate students, the newcomer students, with the native speaker students, and there's no talk about how that's actually being said. There's kind of some wishy-washy talk about, yeah, there might be some passing in the hallways, yeah, there's sometimes going to clubs together, sometimes extracurricular, and none of that was mentioned in that study. Yeah, it just seems very vague. Also, let's see, it just feels like in an article I read covering the teachers that were against this change, there was concerns by the superintendent, once interim, saying that they didn't want to give second-class treatment to newcomer students. But how can it be possibly first-class treatment if these students aren't getting proper transition, their parents aren't being told, there isn't enough time for them to integrate into a new school, their proficiency in English isn't quite ready. It says the study for the first semester was 44% of students were improving in their English. What about the second semester? How are they doing then? How are the students doing in their second year? There's just no numbers showing me that these students are ready past their first year. And I think it's great that they can test out of it, and I think that's a wonderful option. But to force that on all the students seems really irresponsible. So that's what I have to say about that. I don't know how you can walk back that approval, but I really think you should rethink it. Sounds like a big source of stress to the teachers who are already stressed out. And as someone that works with students with trauma, with students that deal with trauma of immigration, this isn't going to really help those families stabilize either. To take away a source of stability when they used to have one, it's just makes no sense.
We will now have Velma Bailey.
Good evening, everyone. To whom much is given, much is required. Creating the portrait of a graduate. The district has been given resources from many levels: taxes, donations, volunteer services, consultants, contracted workers, and more, in helping graduates create a portrait of themselves to present themselves to the world as they leave school. It is important to look at ways to continue their success. Many requirements are needed from the district to help our children improve during the hours when they are not in school. The district has made many strides toward after-school programming and also is looking forward to building the before-school program, but there's so much more. When we look at the children when they're not in school, especially at this time, I like to talk about summer programming. The district could do a lot more. You've been given a lot, especially during the Biden administration. We'd like for you, I'm asking that you look at the the non-school hours programming during the summer and start meeting with some of the service providers to see where the students are and what kind of support you can provide to them, especially this summer, 2025, when the district has already decided that they are going to cut the summer school program within the district from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. I'm requesting that we develop an opportunity right now to meet with some of the providers in the community that have programs that support students in this district and find out how we can network and blend some of the services. If the district still has a program that children can log into and learn during the summer and hours, I'd just like for the district to present that information to the service providers and let us help you get the kids to log in and get those self-paced programs and start working through them. I'd also like to see the district meet more with the libraries for some of the services that they have. Like the school year, we're all trying to build children that can not only learn in school, but they can make practical applications of the skills that they acquire, that they can make them in the community. We can help you with college to career readiness. We bring in service providers and people where children can actually have hands-on experiences with people like police officers, people from the highway patrol, people who are at the science center, even people in the trade unions. So I'd like to request at this time that the district take the money that was going to be projected for those 2 weeks that there's not going to be summer and use it to start creating an opportunity to meet with the children, so we can meet together on behalf of the children. Thank you.
Thank you to our board. Since the remaining commenters are representing NCNAA and to prevent being in violation of our board policies, we will conclude public comment.
Mr. Jackson, how many commenters were there?
There are 2 more.
I would recommend that we suspend those rules and allow those commenters to provide. Without objection, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Marissa Moore.
Hi, my name is Marissa Moore, and in addition to working at Nahed Chapman New American Academy, I also run an educational research and consulting firm. And I want to speak here to you with you all today about just ethical research practices as they pertain to the ESOL program recommendations that were made tonight. Educational professionals have a duty to use research ethically. This includes presenting data within its full context and accurately citing sources. The presentation we saw tonight used misrepresented data to support its recommendations. 3 of the 4 data points that were used, the access test results, the ESOL benchmark scores, and then the classroom walkthrough data, Of all of those involved flawed comparisons and data misrepresentation. Specifically, newcomer students in newcomer centers were compared to all other ESOL students in the district. A significant portion of the ESOL students in non-newcomer schools have already attended newcomer centers. This is a fundamentally invalid comparison that disregards key differences between the groups, ignores the impact of newcomer centers on ESOL students, and leads to drawing misleading and potentially harmful conclusions. Such misuse of data is not only unethical, but it is also dangerous, as it could result in detrimental consequences for newcomer students. Furthermore, the parent input referenced in the presentation lacked transparency. Of the thousands of ESOL caregivers in our district, only 55 parents were surveyed, creating an inadequate and unreliable sample that cannot yield valid conclusions. The surveys presented finding that parents express a desire for their children to learn English and become college and career ready is insufficient to support the proposed recommendations. There is no evidence that altering the newcomer program would impact this parental desire in any way. Lastly, the misrepresentation of parental input is unethical because it places families in a position of unintentional complicity to justify changes that may not serve in their students' best interests. If the newcomer program requires change, recommendations for such a change should be grounded in existing research and district-specific data that is collected and presented ethically and transparently. You all have already asked some really great questions, and I appreciate that dialogue. I also strongly encourage you to seek additional data sources or request access to the full data set before supporting these recommendations. Specifically, I urge you to request ESOL data comparing newcomers and newcomer programs to newcomers that are not enrolled in newcomer programs. I urge you to request longitudinal data that tracks ESOL students who participated in newcomer programs and continued at center schools and beyond. I urge you to request classroom walkthrough data from schools other than just the newcomer schools. And I urge you to request a parent survey administered to a representative sample of our caregivers with survey questions designed to ensure both content and construct validity. Before taking action that will significantly impact some of our most vulnerable students, it is essential to ensure that all available data has been fully considered. I know that all of us here wants what's best for our stakeholders, and I know that we can be partners in this work. Thank you for your consideration. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Rick Tritton, and I am here to speak to you today regarding the recommendations to modify the NCNAA program. The teachers of NCNAA and I urge you to delay any implementation of these recommendations until they have been updated with input from the schools and surrounding community that will be affected. As it stands, many of us feel that there are several issues with these recommendations that have not been considered. First, transitioning to a one-year program will require robust infrastructure, curriculum development, teacher training, and resource allocation. Currently, we know of no plan of how the district plans to reallocate resources and prepare teachers for the needs of the students that they will be receiving. Without a clear plan forward, it is difficult to picture our students getting the care that they need once these changes are implemented. On that point, ESOL students have an incredibly diverse range of needs to be met to ensure academic success. Because of this, we fear that our students' academic success is being put at risk by a lack of a clear plan. We feel that changing to a one-year program will not provide sufficient time for us to meet these needs and allow students to acquire English proficiency and achieve academic benchmarks. If this is the case, this will likely lead to higher dropout rates from our students and diminish long-term educational outcomes due to a stunted linguistic development. The high school center specifically serves newcomers from 14 to 20 years of age. The majority of these students have interrupted formal education, some or none at all. So, not only are they learning the language, they have to catch up in science and math, which will not take the 4 years that most high schoolers have. They need more time in order to do that. In the past, when those students were forced into electives, both the elective teachers and the student flounders. The teachers needed significant assistance and training, but that never happened. So if this were to work, more time and resources would need to be provided to those teachers, which is why we support taking the time to do this well. We are not against change, but we want you to please work with us to make these changes. These recommendations need inclusive stakeholder input. When we were informed of these proposed changes, we were completely blindsided. None of the teachers, administrators, or parents of these schools were consulted for our thoughts on what was needed for the schools and programs to succeed. Parents, educators, and administrators must have a meaningful opportunity to participate in the decision-making process to ensure that policies reflect the realities and needs of our diverse student population. As the ones who work with these students every day, we are acutely aware of their needs and how best to meet them. As has been said, build nothing for us without us. In order to work forward, we propose the following. 1, we need a comprehensive needs assessment. Before we can implement the proposed changes, we need to have a more complete understanding of the full impact that they're going to have, especially regarding non-newcomer schools. 2, we need to develop a phased, research-based approach that ensures long-term success for all students. 3, we need to engage parents, community members, and teachers in a transparent decision-making process. Establish clear benchmarks and student success and accountability measures before implementing these changes district-wide. If we work to do all of these things together, we believe that as a district, we will be able to provide a more equitable and effective ESOL program that meets the needs of all of our students. However, this is only possible if you, board members, agree to delay any of these implementations. We, along with the almost 600 people who have signed our petition so far, outlining this exact thing, we strongly urge you to prioritize a more thoughtful and well-resourced approach to ensure that all of our ESOL students get the supports that they need to succeed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Hi.
I'm sorry, sweetheart.
Oh, no, I'm a teacher. I just want to share about my class just a little bit. I've got less than 3 minutes. May I share about my class with you?
Go ahead.
Thank you. When I first began working at our Newcomer school, one of our leaders said something to me that has stuck with me ever since. We are the first Americans our families get to know in their new country. We are the welcomers, and we are part of what shapes their early feelings of belonging, safety, and community in their new homes. The students we serve arrive with backgrounds as diverse as their languages. For some, their first day of school ever is their first day of school with us.
Yes.
I'd like to share about one of my former students. This student arrived at our school with little to no English, no literacy in his first language, and a heavy load of trauma. He was very triggered by the bus, which would lead to emotional breakdowns every morning upon arrival at school and every afternoon upon dismissal. He cried when he had a substitute. He cried any time there was a change in the schedule he was accustomed to. Fire drills, school assemblies, standardized testing. Anything out of the norm was enough for him to spiral. He had a very difficult adjustment period, but through the caring and compassionate work of our staff, who built relationships with this student and his family, he ultimately adjusted. The brain does not learn when it does not feel safe. Many of our newcomer students have just arrived in this country after leaving behind their homes in very violent places. They flinch when they hear planes fly over the school. They panic when they hear the playful screams of their friends at recess. Loud noises trigger physical responses in our students because they do not feel safe yet. And that feeling of safety is one that can only be developed through time and consistency from an understanding staff who have been trained in how to best support these specific students. After 1.5 years, my former student is thriving. He no longer cries at arrival and dismissal. He has made huge leaps with his second language acquisition. At the end of this school year, he will be ready to move on to a neighborhood school. This too will be a big adjustment for him. But I cannot imagine the disaster it would have been for him and his family had he been pushed out of our school after only 1 year. That would not have been individualized support for this student, and it would not have reflected our shared values in SLPS. He needed that second year, and if we truly hold individualized support as a value, then we should continue to provide that option to students who need it. The board should delay the implementation of these recommendations until clearer data is presented, teachers are consulted, and time is taken to adequately prepare throughout the district for changes of this magnitude. To do anything less than that would be to treat our immigrants as second-class citizens. Thank you.
Nobody from the high school has had the chance to speak. Mr. Jackson, can we have two more? How many more speakers? Who else wants to speak? Can we have two more? Go ahead. Let's do two more. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
I will not take a great deal of your time. The kind of student that was just described, I teach high school math. I teach algebra, and I teach an elective called Math Fundamentals. When our students arrive, they are given a proficiency test that has no English on it. It is strictly numbers. And it's graded from, can you count to 10? Can you name numbers, 1 to 10? All the way up to, can you solve a system of equations? I have 16 algebra students, 2 of whom are first-year students. They just arrived. They had the English and they had the math, and they are achieving algebra. My other 27 students of the 165 other newcomer students, when they took that proficiency test, some of them could not count at all. Some of them could count in English up to 1,000. None of them could divide. None of them knew what a fraction was. None of them knew what a decimal was. None of them knew what the word addition, and, more, per, or each knew. In the new program, those high school students are going to go into an algebra class directly. It's a sheltered algebra class, but they're going directly into an algebra class. You've been told that they're not given elective credit. They are. They get elective credit for math fundamentals. You've been told it's not fair that they're not going into the grade level classes, but a child who cannot count in their own language is not going to pass algebra. There's simply no way it can happen for them. And I'd like you to consider that when you're looking at this proposal.
With due respect to the board and all the administrators who are in this house, I want to speak on behalf of students that I have worked with and students that connect to the same background that I have. I experienced war as a 5-year child. I still remember vividly about what happened during that time. I'm 45 years now. And I see a reflection of me in these students, because besides experiencing war as a child, I also worked in countries where our students come from. I have witnessed people fleeing from war in DRC, walking by foot for hundreds and hundreds of miles with every possession that they could carry with them straight into a refugee camp. I had an opportunity to work in these refugee camps and see what education means in a refugee camp. I also had an experience to move to the US as a graduate trained teacher, and I understand the amount of time it took me to adjust and get the confidence to apply for a teaching license. It took me a year, and I had attempted over 2 graduate programs before, and I also did another graduate program in USA. It took me a year to feel confident to apply for a teaching license. What about the students we are talking about? I've witnessed students who come to 5th grade, yet they're at a 1st grade level in every, and what will become of them? So I just speak on behalf of these students and say, honorable members, remember these students in your planning and make a way for them to get a clear path to success so that we don't throw them in there before they are ready. I believe if you set the first step at 10 feet high, students will be discouraged and they will shut off, and that spells disaster in their entire life. But if you put several steps for them that they feel they can achieve, I believe together with all these professionals filled in this house, we can make a huge difference. So I advocate for further consultation with all members who are involved and interested and passionate about serving the population that we are here gathered to discuss. Thank you so much, and I look forward to a very considerable decision on this from our esteemed board members and our esteemed administrators.
Thank you all. Thank you all for staying late. Thank you all for speaking out, and thank you all for your feedback. Dr. Borchade, did you want to make a remark?
Yes, I do look forward to working with each and every one of you all as we do what's best for children. So you'll be hearing from us. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Vaughn?
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
We are adjourned.